about 2 weeks ago to everybody that had done the management development program in order to try and encourage them to take, I suppose, the best decisions vis-a-vis the environment that's out there in front of us. One of the things I really learned from the last recession in 2007, 2008 was that those who did come out best at the end of the recession were those who, when the recession started, they understood where they were in the cycle a bit better, and they cut very deep and very quickly, so that they preserved whatever resources and money reserves they had in the balance sheet. And they were the companies that tended to come out best at the end. What the majority of small owner managers did was they held on, I think, too long. They allowed their hearts to dictate their heads. And they were waiting for this supposed soft landing that never came. And the result of that was that whatever reserves were built up in the balance sheet were kind of burdened off over a period of time, so that the businesses actually were very weak if it failed. So I think we could learn from previous recessions. There's a big difference with this one and the others. I was looking at some figures there last week, and I looked at the 1929 recession in the States.
Yeah, come here.
My turn, or everyone just want to mute
Come on, mind the coffee. Come on, off my feet, off my feet.
Can everyone turn their mics on to mute? That'd be great. We're just getting some interference.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me, Bernie?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. I was just looking at some of the the characteristics of the three. Sorry, we're getting interference there.
Yeah, I think it's great to hear a little trial.
Okay.
Whoever's on that line, if you wouldn't mind, put your microphone on mute. That would be great. Thanks for that.
Okay. I was just saying there that I looked at some of the characteristics of the three previous big recessions. In 1929, in 1999 when we had the IT bust, and then in 2007 and 2008. And it's very interesting to look at what happened during those recessions. And the market, the stock market, in each of those three periods dropped 52% over an 18-month period. But if you look at this time on the COVID-19, the stock market has dropped about 36% in 18 days. So it's 18 days versus 18 months. It kind of just shows that the cycle is different this time around. But the one thing you have to be aware of is that cycles move on as well, and there will be life after the current situation. I'm using the quotation there from Eileen Gray, who's somebody might have come across her before. She's a Wexford lady in design. She was well known internationally in design, and this is a famous quotation from her. And she says, "The future projects life, the past just shadows." And I think there should be a bit of light for us in relation to that, right? Because this cycle will change, burn out. How long it will take, nobody knows. But we will look back on it, and as time goes on, it will become an event that we'll be talking about rather than suffering through. Okay, Bernie, we can go to the next slide, please.
There you go.
Okay, this was the second slide I put out a couple of weeks ago, and the heading on the slide is "Business of Survival as a Result of the COVID-19." And we're saying there that initially the most important thing is follow the HSE guidelines in relation to health. That's a non-debate, and anyone that would debate that I think is wrong. So that's the first thing we have to do. But the second thing then that we as business people, all of us are on the call this morning, we also have a responsibility to ensure as best we can that our business is alive at the end of the cycle, whenever that will be, right? And again, based on the experience of the past, I would say you have to preserve your working capital, your cash flow really, because there's no quicker way of going out of business than to run out of working capital. And it's not easy, but this is where I'm saying you have to cut deep and do it now if you haven't already done it, because you need to preserve that working capital. And a very simple way of doing that would be to take out your profit and loss account for the last year, last 2 years, and take each line item on the profit and loss account. Your first item will be sales. Obviously, that's decimated at the moment for many of you. For some, your sales are probably up if you're in a particular niche. But if you go below that, then the cost of sales, which is your raw material, you have to look at that and say, okay, what can I do there? Can I turn some of my current raw material I have in stock? Can I turn that into money? Can I buy better if I'm buying something? Because every euro that you save or every percentage that you improve in relation to any of these line items will ultimately wash out into your bottom line. And in the next slide, we'll see some of those, right? I suppose the background to my thinking and all of this is that a business is a pragmatic thing. The market, whatever form of market is out there at any particular moment in time, it doesn't care about any of us individually. But I believe that the market ultimately is a good boss. And the reason I believe that is because the market will always pay you based on output. The market won't pay any of us based on what we might do or what we promise to do or whatever. So if you look at the people around you that tend to be more successful, they take pragmatic business decisions. In other words, they use their head as distinct from their heart. And I believe that in business, we have to use our head a little bit more than our heart. And in one of the books that I referred to earlier, I have a quotation in there. I'm not too sure which one of the books it's in now, but it says, and it's a bit crude, but I think it gets the message across, that when you're in business, you have to use your head. And when you're at home, use your heart, not the other way around. If you're using too much of your heart at work, you're not going to have a very successful business. If you use too much of your head at home, you want to have a very successful relationship. So I would say be very careful that you don't mix those two up. Okay, Bernie, can we go to the next slide? Okay, these are some of the line items I was talking about. If you take out your profit and loss account, your cost of sales, your cost of materials, again, it's about being kind of pragmatic here. I was speaking to the MD of a business yesterday, quite a good business. They are closed at the moment, but they have an online site to that business. And the MD of the business is a lady, and she reckons that they have learned a lot in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And the reason for that is they had a lot of material, a lot of raw material, a lot of work in progress going on. And they have really used the last 2 weeks to kind of go back into the material, go back into their stock and get it ready for sale. So what they're doing there is exactly what I'd be suggesting is where you turn your raw material, your work in progress into a saleable product as quickly as possible. And whatever means you may have either now or when you reopen, that you turn that into cash as quickly as possible. Obviously, the payroll will be as a percentage of your sales. If you're a very labor-intensive business, it's a very big percentage. If you're not a labor-intensive business, it's not as big an issue. But there's very effective schemes out there at the moment from the government and the local enterprise office And if you speak with your local enterprise office there, which you should be doing anyway, you know, optimize all of those schemes that are there in relation to supporting the layoff of staff and the COVID-19 schemes. Other items, if you come down on your profit and loss account and look at the other headings that you might have in your profit and loss account, I'd say take each one of those out individually and interrogate it. You know, it could be transport, it could be energy, it could be communications, whatever it is. Take each line item of your profit and loss account and the current part of your balance sheet and set a target for yourself. Could I, as a business person, be 2 or 3% better under each of these line items? And I think if you do that, you'll finish up with a slicker operation. You'll be fitter to exploit the opportunities that will come when we get through this cycle, and you'll have a better business at the end of the day. So it's all about kind of converting anywhere that the money is tied up. And generally, if we had asked to go into a company by banks, as we used to be, and they'd be looking to get their money back, the places you go looking for money in a business obviously are debtors, work in progress, and stock, and maybe excess fixed assets that might be around the place. We should use the current environment that we are in as an opportunity to, I think, get better at these things, identify them, come up with an action plan, and try and implement it as best you can. Obviously, and the first figure in your profit and loss account is your sales figure. And again, for many of you, will have a certain virtual maybe shop selling through the internet or whatever as a kind of an add-on. I think this pandemic period has forced people to try and bring the virtual selling in a little bit more mainstream. I had a meeting, a Zoom meeting on Monday with a business, and quite a good business. She's in the beauty business, and she has both beauty salons herself, but she's also wholesaling her own product out to other salons. And obviously the reps she has on the road, she has to withdraw those now because they can't be on the road. And because of that, she has really focused in on her virtual selling. And one of the decisions she has made is that she's not going to put reps back on the road anymore. In other words, she's going to change her business model. She always knew that she probably would do it, but the COVID-19 scenario now has forced her to do that, and she'll have a far better business model at the end of it. So there's always a silver lining to be got from these things. Another business I was speaking with the other day, they, again, just to show you what people might be doing, and this business again is closed at the moment, but what they're doing is they're going through their factory, they're using the lean system in order to, I suppose, re-clarify their processes, and they're trying to systemize and come up with formulas and templates that will help them to be far more efficient when they get back into full production when this cycle finishes. So again, there are people that are using the opportunity of the lockdown in order to enhance their business model going forward. And I think everybody on the call this morning, we're all in business. None of our business is so efficient and so 100% perfect that there isn't a lot of kind of opportunities, I think, for us to tighten up, sharpen up, improve processes, and become a slicker operation going forward. And if you do that, you get a good return back on the investment of this downtime on your business. For those of you that might be selling into the health area, that this is a real opportunity for you, and that window of opportunity needs to be exploited. But be careful in the rush of trying to get product out. Make sure that it's out at the right price, and that you're going to get paid for it. Because, as I said earlier, there's no quicker way of going out of business than to run out of cash. And I have seen over the years plenty of business go bust, and not because they didn't have enough customers, not because their product was wrong. They ran out of they went bust because they just ran out of money. And why did they run out of money? They were in such a rush to help everybody else and help everybody else's agenda. They forgot about their own commercial agenda. So my strong advice to you here today is, even if you're in that kind of unique situation where your sales are up because you're in a particular niche, make sure that you're getting margin out of that sales and that you're getting paid from it. I was speaking to a business yesterday and their sales are up 40%. That's a massive, again, they just happen to be in the health, a supplier into a health kind of niche of the market. But that business, if they're not very careful, could easily go bust if they don't convert that funds into cash and cash quickly. So that's my message here in relation to that. Okay, Bernie. Again, some people had a problem with my priority listing here, and I'm sure you have as well. And I had your business number 1, and yourself and your family number 2. In hindsight, I would need to change those around. Obviously, you and your family are number 1, but certainly a very strong number 2 is your business. You need to have your business available to get trading again as soon as you get the light. And we'll talk about that in a minute, because it's far easier to get a business that's already up. It's far easier to get that going than to be starting from scratch again. The other stakeholders in your business, who are your suppliers, the revenue, various other people, they're all the other stakeholders. You have to optimize the systems that are out there to help those, and then obviously create a society. Be careful. I know when I was growing up in Kerry years ago, we were advised, and my mother, God be with her, she had an awful thing about kids that were selfish. And but I think in business you have to be commercially selfish for your own agenda. Don't get caught up in this kind of herd instinct of trying to be the greater good for everyone at your own expense commercially. It's great to be able to satisfy and contribute out there, but you have to have a business at the end of it, because if you're not, your contribution to society will be diminished going forward. Okay, Bernie. And that's really what I'm talking about, the herd mentality there. We're all part of the herd. And we have a sign up in the office here, which I think is very telling. And it's in 2 parts. And it says, by the time the herd arrives, it's generally too late. And the second part of that sign is that if you're part of the herd, you can never get any further than the herd. And that kind of just be careful of this whole kind of herd instinct that's going on at the moment for the greater good of everybody. I'm saying to you, you need to be selfish, commercially selfish and professional for your own business. Because if you do that and your business is commercially viable at the end of it, you'll make a far bigger contribution than just getting involved in the herd kind of road. Okay, Bernie, I have 2 more slides. Yeah. I think this is very important, and I'm calling it the twilight period. I don't think that the period we're going through at the moment as business people is actually the worst period. I think I'd be more worried about the period of June, July, August, that period down along from a working capital point of view. Because if you take in March, I'll show you a slide in a minute. If you take in March, April period, the sales that you created in February, March, and up to the first half of March at least, the revenue for that was either got at the day or it's coming in through data collections at the moment. But the trouble is, if you get back trading in May sometime, and you're selling on credit, you won't have any debtors to collect. You'll have the revenue will be slow building up, but you'll have the overheads return. So the day that you start, be careful about starting at full blast, because it's going to take a number of weeks to build up trade again. So be very careful about taking on extra costs on day one. If you have staff that were left off during the period, don't, my estimation and my advice is, don't be bringing them all back the first day. Bring them back as your revenue builds up, because what you can't do is put yourself at risk that your overheads, you're taking all your overheads up front, but the revenue is going to be 2 to 3 months behind that. We'll see that now in the next slide. The other thing is, from once business is now open, you have to assume that some of the government and the revenue and the bank's support will be withdrawn gradually over a period of time. So you're taking on overheads at one side, and the supports will be reduced at the other. So be careful that you don't get caught in that kind of scenario. And the slide, the next slide, Bernie, will kind of demonstrate that. If you look at this, I just worked an example here for you of a business that I was dealing with there a couple of days ago. And if you take March, April, and May, I'm doing from a working capital perspective. In March, between trading and collecting debtors, they had a revenue of 40,000. In April, because that closed down, they have no trading revenue. They have some debtor collection of 10,000. And in May, they expect to have a debtor collection of about 2,000. So that's the way that the money into the business is going from 40,000 to 10 to 2. Now, the outgoings, the total outgoings of the business in March was 32,000. So the net of that is 8,000. You can see that on the slide. Obviously, because they have left people go, the outgoings in April are dropping down to 10,000. So they're cash neutral in April. Their outgoings again will reduce from 10,000 to 5,000 in May. But you'll see there that they have a deficit from a cash point of view of 3,000 in May. There's only 2,000 coming in. And even though they're closed, they'll be still in their situation, 5,000 going out between rents, ESB, telephone. Just because you're closed doesn't mean that there's no money going out or that you're not incurring some costs. In their situation, the reserves of 10,000 at the beginning of March. So the 10,000 plus 8,000 in March gives them 18,000. It's neutral in April, but there's a deficit of 3,000, which reduces the reserves to 15,000 in May. They have overdraft facility of 5,000. Now, I have projected that forward for them to June, July, and August. And that company, as it stands at the moment, and the way it is looking, is very likely to run out of money by the middle of July or thereabouts. Now, if they're back open trading at that stage, and if they don't get reserves, they don't get facilities from the bank or grants or whatever it is, if they don't get help, that business, even though it's a nice business, could easily go bust. And the reason to go bust is because it just runs out of money. So in summary, what I'm saying to you, all of you, is that each of you have to look at your own business. You have to look at your own business model. In particular, you should be doing a cash flow statement out ahead of yourself for the next number of weeks. And my recommendation is that you do what we call a flowing cash flow statement, which would be that for, let's say you're doing for 4 or 5 weeks. When 1 week is finished, add another week to the end of it and keep updating. And it can be, you don't need to be an accountant to do this. It's just money in and money out, because you do need to have money the day that you open the business again, because you have to, your overheads will start to kick in, your day-to-day financing will start to kick in. So you have to preserve whatever cash is in the business in order to be able to get going again. So that's my strong advice to you this morning. When we get out of this, of course we get out of this. Every cycle moves on. The severity of it depends very much, not so much on the intensity of it, but I think on how long it will last. If we can get going in some shape or form in May, June, and kind of build up a bit of momentum for the, let's say, September to December period, I think most businesses, I think, will have a fair chance of getting back up and being okay. There will be casualties, of course there'll be casualties, but there'll also be some what we would call convenient casualties. I know business here in the southeast, and they had planned to go into liquidation about 2 weeks before the COVID came, and they were shy about doing it because of the publicity. But now they're using the COVID-19 label just to stop. And I think you get a good few convenient receiverships or liquidations as well. And it happened the last time, and it'll happen this time as well. So not every business that will go to business needs to go to business. But the label that's out there will be a convenient label, I think, for some business not to reopen. So Benny, that's kind of the formal bit of it. Any questions you have there, I'll try and answer them. You don't necessarily need to be particularly related to what I've been talking about, but any aspect of business, I'm quite happy to talk about.
That's great, Blaise. And if anyone would like to ask any questions, rather than put everyone back on speakerphone, if you could put them into the chat there, that's kind of an easier way for us. I do have a question that somebody sent in earlier that they couldn't come on the call. And the question, I have a large number of debtors. They're good payers generally. And we have been in general communication. But when should we start discussing outstanding balances? You know, it doesn't feel right at this stage. When is the right time? Do you wait for them to come back open, or do you start having those hard conversations now? And this business owner is a little bit concerned about getting that timing right.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the question, Bernie. Yeah, there's an old saying out there that the crying child gets the milk. And I think if we apply that in relation to data collection, you know, every company out there will be trying to push out debtors and ignore debtors' payments as much as they can, right? But, you know, each individual owner, whoever wrote that question, he or she has to look after their business. And in order to support and have working capital, they need to collect their debt. So if they shout louder than somebody else, they're more likely to get paid. My contention is that nobody should ever be shy about collecting their own money. And a debtor is your money, but it's just in the wrong bank account. It should be in your bank account, and it's in somebody else's bank account. So the timid curate never got a parish. So I would say keep away from legal, don't be going down any legal route with it, but be very proactive in relation to collecting your debts and don't be apologetic about it. And again, this is the herd instinct that I spoke about earlier. The herd and our heart would say to us, we shouldn't be pushing things too hard during this period. But, you know, a lot of owner managers out there are looking about survival. If you're looking about survival and trying to manage your cash flow based on survival, you don't have a choice but to go after it. So that my advice is not to be timid about it, to go after it. And if you go after it a bit more seriously than somebody else, you're more likely to get it.
The survival of the fittest and all that. I see put in a question there. Would you keep up your pension payments in full reduce them or stop them altogether if money's tight?
Yeah, again, I think we should preserve the cash. If the pension is being paid through the company, I think we should preserve the cash within the business by every means possible, right? Now, when you say the questioner mentioned, should they stop the pension? I would say just defer it for a month or two, or a couple of months. Don't stop it, because there's a difference between deferring something and stopping it. With deferral, when one gets back up and trading again, at least you have money coming in order to start kickstarting some of these payments. But where there's nothing coming into the bucket, and you keep taking water out of the bucket gets empty very quickly. So any deferral of bank payments, mortgage payments, VAT, any deferrals that are allowed at the moment, I think should be optimized. Even if the company appears to have enough money in the immediate future. If you saw from the projections I did there, will they have enough in next June, July and August? Is July and August and September, to me, are going to be the critical months, not necessarily where we are at the moment.
Okay. Another question there. When you speak about slowly bringing back staff, or in some cases not bringing them back at all, how do you handle this, or do you wait for the government to give the directives? This business is
I kind of answered that, I suppose, earlier on, in the sense of whenever you're starting to go back to the business, right? I believe it's going to be slow enough. It's going to take a couple of weeks for our business from the day it opens to get back up to speed again, right?
Yeah.
Now, as a business person, one has to be very careful that you're not taking on all the overheads on day one, because you won't have revenue on day one. I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and they're expecting to reopen now on the 6th of May, because their category of business is quite a big business. But they would reckon that they won't get a volume of business for at least 3 to 4 weeks, even though they will be opened. And being the good business person that he is, he understands that he's only going to incur the overhead, and the payroll is part of that on a phased basis. Again, your hat would say take everybody back on day one and get going. Your head has to tell you from a business point of view that you have to try and match revenue with costs. So it's going to be phased, and my advice to people is it should be a phased opening from a cost point of view, because definitely your revenue will be phased.
Okay. Another question there, I don't know if you can see it there. We have a working capital loan that we're going to clear down half of it with the bank as not really using it. Do you think that's wise, or should they hang on to it for a few more months?
I would hang on to every facility you have for the next number of months until you get into kind of a cash neutral type of situation, because it's always easier to hold on to something than trying to get something. So my advice to them is hold on to it. When they're cash rich and they're back trading, then they can make that decision. But it would be wrong to do it at the moment, in my view.
Okay, and the second part of that question from the same person there, would you also agree to hold back all money owed to the revenue until a few months after everything settles down?
Yeah, again, the revenue for the moment have committed to allow VAT and that be deferred. I'd optimize that time scale. As we come towards the end of that scale, it may be extended somewhat, right? And at that stage, my advice to people would be to get into negotiation with the revenue and agree a staged, because you won't be able to, the company won't be cash rich enough to be able to pay it all in one go anyway. So it should be done over maybe, and the revenue, to be fair to them, will be, I think, will facilitate that quite well.
Okay.
You know. So again, it's trying to match the money in and the money out going forward.
Okay, so Sandra asked there, what do you think of the microfinance loans that are on offer at the moment?
I think it's very attractive, and he should contact the local enterprise office there. It's gone up from 25 to 50 max. I believe there's Evelyn will be able to give more detail on it. But the first 6 months is moratorium on the first 6 months, and then it's for a 3-year period.
That's right.
Yeah, Bernie, I can come in on that if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so hi Blaise, how are you? Just in terms of the business loan through microfinance, the offering has been increased to 50,000 now from 25,000, and the first 6 months are interest-free and repayment-free. There's a reduced interest rate of 4.5% if you come through the local enterprise office. If you apply directly to microfinance, the interest rate is 5.5%. And I suppose the benefit of coming through the local enterprise office is that we will assign someone to work with you on your application. So at least when your application is submitted, it will be in order, and it will be able to be processed straight away. So I would recommend, if you are looking to apply for this, come through the LEO. Now, you need to be able to show that your business has been impacted or likely to be impacted by the current situation. So that's one of the criteria. So look, I would say talk to us, and we'll go through any of the supports that we have and work with them on you. Okay?
Perfect. Michael there from Inch House, he's asked a question. They're a guest house, and should they?
Sorry, Bernie, could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, it's Michael from Inch. It's a guest house in Laois.
Okay.
Should we reduce rates to get guests in when we open again, or should we stick to our previous budgeted rates?
Again, that's I suppose a business decision, and Michael will know his market better than anyone, right? I think when businesses will open, there'll be a strong demand, likely, and if there's a strong demand, that is an opportunity for somebody to, I would say, hold that pricing if it's all possible.
Okay.
You know? Again, it's this hard-base that I spoke about, that just be careful as business people. Sorry, there's interference coming there.
Yeah, if people could just turn their mics on to mute, please. That'll eliminate the interference. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. I was saying that, you know, as business people, we have to take the opportunities when they arise. So when, say, when Michael gets going again, and let's assume there's a pent-up demand for what Michael does, I would say be careful that that Michael doesn't weaken on his pricing, because you know he has to make it up somewhere along the way. But he'll know himself in his negotiation that what's capable of, and you know, as business people, we should never be shy about or apologetic about running a commercial operation.
Hopefully,
businesses they're not voluntary organizations,
no.
Business. And I think one other strong message, Bernie, if I may, while it's in my head, I think one other strong message that we should have learned from the previous recession is that the businesses, as I said, that came into the recession with strong balance sheets were those that tended to come out at the other end. Now, why did they come in with strong balance sheets? They came in with strong balance sheets because when things were good, they ran good business, good commercial business, and they weren't afraid to optimize their bottom line. And I would say when we come out of this cycle, and there will be opportunities again going forward, I think it beholds all of us as business people to build up the reserves in our balance sheet. And the only way you can build the reserve on your balance sheet is if you're trading profitably. You know, a lot of business, small business in particular, they think they're doing okay because they're showing a small profit. But often the small profit is shown because they're not paying themselves enough, you know, and it can be kind of false economics, I think myself.
That's great, thanks for that.
But again, sorry, Bernie, I'm cutting in there. I think there's two time frames that the people on the call this morning should have in mind. One is the immediate time frame, which is about survival and being there at the end of it over the next number of months. But we should also have a time frame of maybe 2 to 3 years beyond that. So I think we should have two roadmaps. One for survival over the immediate future, and secondly, a bit more strategic about what the business wants to do and what kind of business model it should have going down the road. And I think business people shouldn't lose sight of the long-term journey just because of where we are at the moment. And the good guys won't do it. They won't lose sight of that, you know.
Okay. So we've one last question there, Blaise. Could there be a gap between the COVID payments stopping and us needing to delay the return of our staff? And is this going to pose an employment law issue?
It's hard to know. You know, we're only all guessing about the future in some ways. We have to make judgment calls, but I couldn't be definitive about it, right? But
yeah.
I'd be optimistic. By nature, I'd be optimistic anyway. Most people on the call will know that. But being practical as well, I think we'll come out of this a bit wiser. They always say you should learn from the past, but that's only half the equation. The other half of that equation is we need to use that knowledge and that interpretation of the knowledge in order to implement things going forward. This period we're going through won't be wasted if we learn from it and do something as a result of that learning. It will be wasted if we only learn and do nothing. So my strong advice to people is, you know, optimize what's in front of us at the moment. It's not easy, of course it's not easy, but that's where we are. And most business people, I believe, will come up with a roadmap to get themselves out, to survive first of all, and get themselves on the road going forward. And I think that's very important. It's very important for the country, you know. Like you take the number of people involved job-wise in the small, medium-sized business is phenomenal, you know. And we all have a part to play, I think, in helping people. The calls I'm getting every day, because I'm in the office every day, taking calls and having meetings with people and that. But the overriding thing that's coming through to me is people are looking for reassurance. A, that there's a future, and B, that what they're doing or think you're doing is the right thing to do, because they're mentally kind of isolated at the moment. I think most people know what to do. They just need a bit of reassurance to say, yeah, I think that's the right way, or maybe come at it from this angle or whatever. And I think the board, the Laois, and around the country, and all of us involved, and the chambers and that, I think we all have a part to play in helping and reassuring people that A, it's difficult, of course. So that's the empathy bit of it. But it beholds us as well to encourage them to look forward and put in place the stepping stones to get out of where we are at the moment. And it is possible, and it will happen. And there'll be a lot of, you know, there'll be good days again. There'll be good days again.
Well, Blaise, I think that's been fantastic, and I'd imagine lots of people on this call are going away with some practical things that they can do in terms of looking for the opportunities, increasing their efficiency, and maybe even changing their business models. And there are, as you always say, there are silver linings to all of these crises, and it's up to us to find them. And, you know, I really hope it's helped. And thanks again for taking the time. Your input is invaluable. And while business owners might feel a little bit isolated, I think today they might have some glimmer of hope on how to survive and move forward.
Yeah, just before you go, Bernie, it might be useful if Evelyn maybe just, I suppose, just maybe went through various interventions. There's some fantastic interventions there with Leo at the moment.
Yeah.
You won't be there for that.
Yeah, I was just going to come in there, Blaise. Yes, so what I would say to everyone is that local enterprise offices are very much open for business. We're all working remotely, but we are picking up emails and taking calls. So if you have any queries or anything, please email us and we'll come back to you as soon as we can. And if we can't answer it, we'll put you in touch with whomever can. I suppose it is, as Bernie said, it's very important that while your businesses are closed, that you're not isolated, that you continue to work with your accountant, the chamber, the banks, anyone that can help you through this time and come out the other side. So in relation to, I suppose, supports through the Local Enterprise Office, if you log on to our website, localenterprise.ie/leash, that will give you a list of the different training programs and mentoring opportunities that are available, all free of charge. And you can book them online. There's lots of different programs there that will help your business. And the mentoring, you know, it's a 30-minute phone call with one of our mentors. And if you feel you need longer mentoring, then we can arrange that for you also. I suppose in relation to the financial supports, the main one probably is the business continuity voucher, which I'm sure most of you have heard about. So you can apply for businesses in any sector employing up to 50 people can apply for a business continuity voucher, and it's $2,500 towards third-party consultancy costs. And it's really to look at what actions you need to put in place to help you survive the current climate and also be ready to trade when we get out the other side. We have a panel of mentors that we can assign to you, but if there's someone specific that knows your business that you want to work with, we will facilitate that also. So I think this is a great opportunity. A lot of businesses are closed and they have time on their hands to assess where they're at and where they need to be. And as I say, there's lots of support out there to help you get there. If you log on to localenterprise.ie/response, that will give you an overview of all the supports that are available to small businesses, not just through the Local Enterprise Office. So I think it's even to take 10 minutes and just log on there and read up on some of the supports that are available. As I say, we're here to help you any way we can. If you haven't engaged with us already, I would recommend you do it. In terms of the business continuity voucher, that's only open until the 15th of May. And once that's fully subscribed to, and that could be by the end of April, I don't know, there's a budget of 4 million and it's 31 local enterprise offices. So there's businesses all around the country applying for that. So once that's fully subscribed to, you won't have an opportunity to apply for it. And I'm not sure if it's going to be extended. So I would say apply for it as soon as you can if you're going to apply for it. Yeah, so that's it. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me.
Well, if they have any questions, hopefully they'll make contact with you, Evan. Thanks again for that. It's great to hear all the supports that are there. You must be inundated and so busy.
Yeah, we're getting there now.
It's great to get the word out. And I did see a request there. People want to add in their details. Feel free to do that. Someone has their mic on there, if they might turn it off. So look, we'll finish up. And again, thanks to Blaise. And speaking over to you, I'm not sure who that is. Okay, we'll end the meeting now, and again, feel free to contact me with any questions. And thanks, Blaise, and for everyone, thanks to the Local Enterprise Office.
Thank you, Bernie. Thanks very much, Blaise.
Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Blaise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Best of luck to
Thank you.
everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.